I'm Julie Alexandria.
And I'm Jennifer Mercedes.
Between the two of us, we have over 2 decades of experience working in professional sports.
We're telling the stories of women who are at the top of their game in sports and business.
Welcome
to the locker room.
Claudia Romo Edelman is a diplomat, an inspiring speaker, a media contributor, an activist for equity and diversity and inclusion, with more than 25 years of experience being an advocate for global organizations, including UNICEF, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, and the United Nations World Economic Forum. Just to name a few organizations she's done some great work with. So welcome, Claudia. First of all, how did you get started, and where did your passion for your activism stem from?
Let me start by saying thank you for having me. I am really excited to be able to have this conversation with you. And I really think that to your question, everybody, if you really look backwards, there's a place and a time where you can go back to, and there's it defines who you are and what you do. And for me, one of those moments was when I was a teenager in Mexico City. A lot of the city was destroyed through a series of earthquakes. I don't know whether you remember in 1985, Mexico City was so scared and panicking. And after 2 earthquakes that started happening in many days, all of us were out of our buildings, of our homes, of our streets, looking at what is happening. And all of a sudden, all of us became volunteers, trying to find our family, our friends, our neighborhoods okay, our streets okay. So I was volunteering part of a group of big men, pretty much. I remember that we're sweeping. Our objective was to sweep the streets to see that no one was trapped inside of the buildings. And we were walking, and it was noisy, and it was puffy and dusty and confusing overall. And I just stopped, because I thought I heard a voice, and I started screaming out my lungs, stop, come back. And stop, come back. And there was this one guy from all these big guys that were in my squad, and he turned around and said, what? And I was I think I heard a voice. And she's did you think you heard a voice, or did you hear a voice? And I just had this moment, I remember of doubt, and I was even harder screaming, stop, come back. And then this guy came back, and by the time he was here, he was with me. The voice inside of a building trap was clear. There was a girl that was screaming out there. So he and I looked at each other and started, stop, come back, help. And so there were 2 people screaming, and then 3 people, and then 4 people, and then we started pushing, and more people were screaming and pushing, until what it felt for me for hours, we were able to move that piece of wall that was trapping that girl. And there were the big eyelashes full of dust, and with a sense of you got me right. And I remember that was the first time in my life in which I felt useful. I just felt that I did something that was important and useful. And when we took that girl out of that hole, and I saw the mother hugging her and just walking by without even looking at us, she was so nervous and happy to have her daughter. I felt that was something I wanted to feel again. But also I actually understood. Finally, I got it. My father kept on saying oh my God, you're so loud. And I was oh, bingo. I got it. It's great to be loud. I can use this for this is so awesome. And I've been lucky to be able to do that for the last 25 years, just being loud and bringing attention to people, the things that they don't see, that they should see, and bringing things that are invisible to be visible, and connecting the hearts and minds of people to things that they might not hear and they think they hear. But it's great to be able to be loud and be myself as well in doing what I want.
Well, something that all of us as Latinas can say is that we are loud and we're proud. But was this part of the inspiration behind launching We Are All Human, a foundation dedicated to advancing the agenda of equality, of which you are the founder?
The World Human is the culmination of 25 years that I've been working for all these incredible global organizations, trying to do that, gain the hearts and minds of people to do things that they should or they could in order to make our world better. I was working for the Secretary General of the United Nations in the executive office, and in that position, like when you're on the 37th floor of the United Nations at the top of the world, pretty much, you have a sense of perspective. And I was blessed to be able to have access to a lot of data where I could see that despite being everything that we hear and despite being bombarded by negative news, the world is making progress. So it might not be as fast as we want, it might not be as good as we want it, but we are actually in that trajectory of progress, except that there were one or two things that were concerning in that trajectory of everything. And one of them, climate change, but the other one is that divisive language was getting by far too much traction. And that I felt that really could derail the incredible progress that we have as humanity. So 5 years ago, I started seeing how the amount of hate was going up, the amount of racism and xenophobia and discrimination, and that sense of the otherness. Like if you see someone that it doesn't look like you, you're like scared. And then you start feeling that that other doesn't have access to the things that all of us have the right to have access to. So I set up this foundation called We're All Human, just to remind people of that basic principle. We are all human. We belong to the same human family. What happens to one finger affects the hand. What happens to the hand affects the body. And we're all interconnected. And I saw that if we allow this divisiveness to go forward, we would start seeing things like populism and things like Brexit, things like George Floyd, things like divided countries. So it is great actually to be able to see now that thanks to the social justice and injustices, racial conversations we have, the work of allowing people to remind that we belong to the same human family, the collective consciousness about how not to be a racist, how can we actually be so incredibly advanced, and yet we have to move the needle from being just tolerant, like I tolerate you. That's great already, but I would love to see the needle moving from tolerance to acceptance, so that we belong in a world in which you can be yourself in wherever situation you are, whether you can come to an office and you can be your Latino full self and be your loud self and your emotionally engaged self instead of pretending to be someone you're not.
And speaking of someone you're not, I mean, or someone you are, you have such a diverse background. As you mentioned, being born and growing up in Mexico City, you have a Swiss and Mexican background. How did your own upbringing and diverse background inform your experiences?
Absolutely. I lived for 25 years in Europe. I speak 7 languages. I was working in all these roles in which I truly felt like a minority. I went to any business group when I was working for refugees or trying to actually have a conversation with different dignitaries, diplomats from different countries. And as soon as I came to the room, no matter what my agenda was, no matter how serious the issue was, I saw it happening. The imaginary pineapple coming on top of my head, and just like like the other people just like looking at the imaginary like Roomba, like I was the most exotic thing that like for some people. So I really felt a minority. And when I was planning on moving to America 6 years ago, I realized that there was a thing called Hispanic. I never heard that word before in my life. I lived my entire life as a happy Mexican, and I was like, Hispanic, what is this? Oh, it's an invention of America. They call all of us Hispanics. And when I started getting excited about like Hispanic, 60 million people, 18% of the population, that's amazing. Oh my God, $2.6 trillion in like the size of the economy. If Hispanics would be a standalone economy, they would be the 8th largest in the world. Oh my God. And we produce 12% of the GDP. That means that when we go to the States, I told my kids, we're going to go to a store and they're going to say like, oh my God, Latino, thank you for the 12% of my paycheck every month. Here's the red carpet, come in. Thank you for being so young and paying so many taxes and being the force and the driving force for America. And I came thinking that I was finally going to be part of the majority. But when I moved in, I actually felt pretty minority, even though. And I started looking at the the data, and it didn't make sense. The reality didn't make sense with the perception. We're powerful. Latinos are huge, but we're seen as small. We're strong, but we act weak. And so, because I married an American 3 years ago, I really took it personal. I was like, because of my decision of marrying an American and not being a diplomat anymore, that I'm going to be traveling all around the world, my daughter, a Latina, is going to make 50% of the salary. So that became personal. And that's why I devoted my entire time. Now I went to the Secretary General, my boss at that time, and said, like, look, you have to give me a sabbatical. This is something I have to do. With experience I have to be able to try to rebrand Latinos. We don't have a reality problem. We just have a perception problem. We're wonderful. We're beautiful. We just are not seen. And I think that that's how all my experience in being in a global affairs is giving me so much optimism, because I've seen communities come out of nothing and thrive with 1/10 of what the Latino community have. We just have to unify, and we just have to have an effort together, an agenda together that unifies us, that we are, all of us, really committed to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued, because we're wonderful and we deserve to be seen as what we are, stars.
It's so funny that what you say as far as the perception. I just posted a post on Instagram which says, we're not minorities, we've been minoritized, and we're not underrepresented, we've been historically excluded. And it just goes so much with what you just said right now. But you've been a dedicated activist for diversity and inclusion your whole career. What is it like to see the rest of the world finally, what it seems like maybe a little bit, catching up?
It's amazing. And we just have to make sure that this is sustainable. At the end of the day, what you were saying before, it's exactly the insight I got. You see, when you're a marketer like myself, you drive and live and breathe off data. And so the data totally indicates that we've been incredibly important for this country from the 16th century. It's not that we're newcomers and we just came to this country a couple of weeks ago or years ago and said, like, yeah, we're not takers. We are absolute makers, and we've been making it since the 16th century. We invented and created agriculture and brought it to this country. We invented large-scale cattle. Even the saddle of the cowboys is Hispanic. Even the very symbols of American, those come to us. So what I started to realize is that America is made of stars. And we are one of them. Hispanics are one of them. It doesn't mean that we're the only star, but we are one of the stars of America that make this country such a sky beautiful universe. We just have still a huge cloud covering our shine. We've been shining all along. So it's time for all of us together to remove that cloud, all of us together. And I think that this is the opportunity that we have right now with social justice being such a top of the agenda, that we should say, like, hey, for us, it's all about together removing that cloud. See us for what we are. We're shining. We don't need to do much more. We just need to be allowed to be shine. It's almost like opening the curtains of the stage where we're ready. We're ready for everybody to see us. And I really think that the agenda of diversity and inclusion is the next train. Whether you're a company, whether you're an organization, there's no way that you will escape diversity and inclusion the way that purpose and sustainability were 20 years ago. And if you're not like gender or green as an organization, you're probably out of business. That will be diversity and inclusion. And organizations will have to learn how to devote this, but we just have to, people like me that work in this space, we just have to create simple solutions so that everybody can actually access the solutions. People want to be more diverse. People want to be more tolerant. We just have to make it easy for corporations to do it in a way that allows us to be sustainable and keep this keep this issue until we come to better solutions for the long run.
Tell us what you have planned for this year's 2021 Hispanic Heritage Month.
Hispanic Heritage Month is my focus number 1, 2, and 3, priority 1, 2, and 3, and this is the bigger of invitation for all of you. You see, Hispanic Heritage Month has been pretty much of a dull, if not, unnoticed celebration. many corporations do a half an hour bad margarita celebration, and they like, done, my Hispanics for the year until next year, done. No, we have to take this opportunity. It doesn't mean that is the only thing that we're going to do, but we can make this bigger, bolder, and better than ever before. We should take Hispanic Heritage Month now that we have a couple of months ahead of time to plan and make sure that our voices are heard, our numbers are known, and that people are educated about the power of Latinos, that we take this opportunity to talk and dance and actually celebrate all of what Hispanics are for this country. So we, as an organization, we have devoted pretty much the last 6 months to preparing the toolkit for America to be ready and equipped to do a Hispanic Heritage Month really big. So we have a unifying messaging framework, data sets, and communications assets for anyone and everyone ready to deploy it. Think of the rainbow of the LGBTQ. Imagine that 25 years ago, I'm telling you, hey guys, we're going to invent a rainbow and we're going to launch it as a way to demonstrate pride and to get allies to be simpatico to our cause, to be able to talk about our rights. That's exactly what we're doing with Hispanic Star, that symbol that pretty much symbolizes, like that we're 100% American, like the star of the flag, and the ñ from Espanol or Portuguese, because that's who we are. 100% Hispanic, 100% America, at 200% of a person that should be seen, heard, and valued. And we should see this symbol the way that you see the rainbow of the LGBTQ during Pride Month everywhere, in the t-shirts, in the talking points, in the streets, in the airports, in the books, in the podcasts, in the baseball, like in the baseball games, when every time that there's a baseball player that is Hispanic, we should just like blow that symbol and talk about, like as much as we can about the value of Hispanics. So my invitation for all of you is tune in with HispanicStar.org. April 15, which is 2 days from now, we're going to have all that toolkit ready so that you have 5 months to prepare, so that you navigate with confidence, but also with planning, how to make this be Pride meets Halloween, because there's a marketing opportunity as well that comes with it.
I have one last question for you, because you did bring up baseball, but as someone who speaks 7 languages, I would like your thoughts on certain things that have been happening in Major League Baseball. Earlier this year, there was an executive of a team who criticized one of his own players for the way that he spoke the English language. He said, it wasn't that good. He ended up subsequently being let go. And just a couple of days ago, there was a journalist who also criticized a player for using an interpreter. Although this player does speak English, but he criticized the player for using an interpreter during his interviews. What can we do, and what can Major League Baseball do, and other organizations that may suffer through similar instances? What can they do to rectify those types of mindsets, I guess?
Factivism. The data speaks for itself. So we're 18% of the population today, 60 million people. By 2025, by 2050, we will be 25% of the population. That means that by 2050, we will be 1 in 4. Just get it. Hello, 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 hola. Hello, 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 hola. And forget about people that are like pretending to be George and they are Jorge, because people will naturally have to learn it. Jorge. Get used to it. Jorge, we're 25% of the population. We will be 20% of the GDP. 20% of every check in this country will come, paycheck for every person will come from us. Data should give us the power. And if you, as baseball, as a sport, can actually be an advocate for talking about Hispanics, just simply talking about what we are, who we are, and what we bring to the country, it will help the trend of Latinidad. Mark Prichard, the largest advertiser in the world from Procter & Gamble, the chief marketing officer of Procter & Gamble, I was with him in a session last year in the Cannes Advertisement Festival, and he started the session by saying, my name is Mark Prichard, but my real name is Nikki Gonzalez. I just never wanted to say it because I was scared I was not going to be able to be where I am today. But I don't want any more Marks any more Nicks pretending to be in Mark, and any more Gonzalez pretending to be Prichard, because our future is here. The time for Hispanics is today, and we just need to bring pride. That's why Hispanic Star is a great framework just to see us to have a brand that symbolizes Latino empowerment, unity, and pride. Bring the data forward, educate everybody. It's time for Hispanics to talk about Hispanics, about the power of Hispanics. And baseball being so many, 40% of the baseball is Hispanic, only 12% of the tickets, but 40% of the baseball organization, players and so on are Hispanics. You have an enormous power to really play a transformative role. The dam is breaking. Water is leaking. The question is, who are going to be the people that will have their hands on the dam when the wall when it breaks? Because it's going to happen. Latinos are going to be seen, heard, and valued. So be part of it and educate everyone about the power of Latinos being proud, talking about the data, being explicit about like, mijo, it's so good to be Latino. We will actually we are the driving force of this country, and we should absolutely be loud and proud about it.
Absolutely. And I love the star as a symbol of that, to be loud and proud. Well, thank you so much, Claudia Romo Edelman, for coming on our show and for speaking so proudly about all of your initiatives and activism. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much.